Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter, and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about volume 10 of A Bride's Story. This volume, when it begins, Karluk has already been staying with the Halgal clan for at least a couple weeks, I assume. And he's there to learn archery from Azel and his cousins. And
Mm.
Azel gifts Karluk an eagle that he names Oksul. And then when winter comes, they start training mounted falconry. And while Karluk and Amir are watching horses, they shared a very nice little scene together where they express their feelings very sweetly. And then for the remainder of the volume, more or less, we focus instead on Smith and Ali, who joined a caravan of travelers on their journey to Ankara. And while they were staying a week or so in a small town to wait out the bad weather, Ali gave all the camels a fancy trim.
They looked fabulous.
They absolutely did. So gorgeous. And they, eventually crossed the mountains and finally reached Ankara. And there, Mr. Smith first reunited with Mr. Hawkins, and he received a very small and modern camera. And then ultimately he reunites with none other than Talas, who had followed her heart and traveled to Ankara in hopes of finding Henry Smith.
What? Crazy.
It is crazy. And I
Amazing.
love it.
Love it.
Yeah. So that was this volume. I think this one had
Yeah.
very nice, it was basically two parts, like the first half and the second half,
Hmm.
more or less, something like that, which gave very different types of good content, in my opinion.
Right. It felt very educational, at least in the first half, where we learned so much about the nomads. Well, I guess more so about the animals that the nomads take care of, and it was interesting just to read about the horses, to read about the eagles,
Yeah, absolutely.
and yeah, and just to see that. I mean, the most exciting part was obviously Talas and Henry reuniting, but I think overall it was a fun volume.
For sure, for sure. And it's been especially since there's been these hints building up about Talas returning, and
Right?
it was very rewarding. But yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's start with the first part of the story, focus on those characters
Okay.
to begin here. So let's start with Karluk, Ahon. He is living with the Halgal clan, and he's helping them prepare for the coming winter in exchange for learning the way of the bow, and hunting in general, I guess, with the falcons.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's really nice to start to see this bond that's starting to grow between, especially Karluk and Azel. But I think Karluk is getting to know some other, the cousins as well. But I think between
Yeah.
Karluk and Azel especially, I think it's very nice to see them getting to know each other and forming a relationship.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I like how it kind of expresses his reason for wanting to learn the bow when Azel kind of questions him. It's like, "You're from the city or the town. Like, why you don't really need to be doing this, do you?"
Right.
Uh, and he just kind of says, "I mean, yeah, I can help out with hunting. Of course, that's one thing, but I really just want to be able to protect people, and I read that as also protect my wife. Be useful." Um, and as we've stated before, he's just ready to be a man now, and feels very inadequate in just the way he is and with his age and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a difference, and it does take time, and I'm sure by the end of the volume, or at least their little arc, I think he understands that it's gonna take time, and that's okay. Uh, but I think the efforts that he's making are gonna pay off in the long run. I mean, he is going to be farther along after all this training than he would have been if he just not had done anything.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
I think for for all I've said in the past about it, he just needs to be patient. And, he'll get stronger in time, things like that. He's doing a lot to make sure that he is stronger than he could have been. So I
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, he's really putting in the effort. And well, and speaking about his kind of about his growth and whatnot, he wanted Amir to stop visiting him once a week
Yeah.
initially, um, and instead come once a month because he wanted more time to improve so that she would be able to notice the improvements more easily, which is very sweet. But it was, I think, maybe even sweeter when he a little bit later realized that no, I miss her too much. I want her to come every week.
Yeah.
So adorable.
He may not like it, but that was cute. That was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did really like that. I agree.
Also, yeah, about his kind of insecurities. I also liked how he he kind of took a little bit of offense, or he felt a little bit insecure when Azel was talking about how the female eagles are big and strong while the male eagles are weak and useless. And he's like, oh no, it's me and Amir. Kind of, but and I think even though there was the scene at the end of his part of this volume with a hit between him and Amir, which I think was good, and I think I think it was good for him. I still think this is something that he will deal with, like this type of
Okay.
insecurity. I think for another couple years, while he's still small
Mm.
and not so strong.
That was my final note on Karluk is that does he finally accept that Amir loves him no matter what? I hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to have his insecurities. People don't. I mean, there can be big moments in people's life where they make a change and never look back, but a lot of times it's incremental. And in this case, I think it will be as well. But at the
Mm.
same time, I this does kind of feel like a breakthrough in their relationship where maybe he can finally accept that Amir loves him for who he is and not what he is or not what he's not.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and I think so too. I'm also kind of choosing to view it that way. It definitely was a big moment for sure.
Hmm.
That said, though, I wouldn't be surprised if he still has moments of weakness in the coming years
Yeah,
still.
that's fair. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, he's he's a preteen, so
Or
I
possibly a teen.
yeah, he could be a teen at this
I
point. And we
think
haven't really got an update
we haven't.
on
Yeah,
age.
I'm very I feel very confident though that he's turned 13 by now.
Mm.
He must have.
And 13-year-olds are moody. I Car looks pretty mature for his age, and I think when you have the responsibility of having a wife and things like that, that can kind of teach you to be more mature and less moody. uh, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that he'll have his insecurities pop up here and there,
Right.
for a few years at least.
Hmm. And yeah, my last note on Karluk is well, just a little shout out to his ability to handle the mounted falconry. It seemed he was doing that very well.
Yeah,
And even when the falcon got overexcited, Karluk was able to calm it down very quickly.
man,
And yeah,
that looks scary.
yeah, it did.
Whew.
Very scary.
Love how hyped it looked though too. Like it's scary, but also it's like whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so good. Ah, the drawings are so good.
Yeah, she does a great job.
But that's all on Karluk.
Yeah,
Then let's talk a little bit about Amir next. I felt a bit like bad for her when because she didn't seem to understand initially when or like why Karluk suddenly didn't want her to come every week anymore.
yeah,
Like I don't think that's an issue anymore at this point, but like in that moment, like I did feel bad for her.
yeah. I think it's hard not to be a little bit hurt
Yeah.
when someone tells you, let's sparse out or space out our our meetings together.
Hmm.
Um, but I think she was very supportive in that, and understands that this is something that Karluk wants, something that he feels like he needs.
Yeah.
Um, and also, it kind of shows her growth from the beginning of the story, where she probably would have been freaking out, if he wasn't around her, or you know near her or something like that. I just think about the sickness chapters, where she was
Hmm.
freaking out and things like
True.
that. But I feel
Mm.
like she's improved from that point.
That's a good point, especially like not only are they not together most of the time right here, but he is also in a place where he is in more potential danger than he would be in town.
Yeah, yeah,
And perhaps during winter, mostly like mainly the cold, but perhaps other things as well. But yeah, yeah, she has grown. Yeah, that is good. I thought it was also really interesting to learn that Amir's dad hadn't, well, he hadn't intended on marrying Amir away at all. It was her grandfather who convinced her dad to find a husband for Amir, and how she kind of expected that it would end up being someone really old that she would have to marry.
yeah.
So seeing Karluk was a relief for her for sure. And yeah, I don't know, just getting her perspective on that was really nice, I think.
It was, and it kind of shows in a way how her mind was so open to Karluk.
Yeah,
Um, had she been expecting someone her age, maybe, or at least, maybe, I should say, if she had gotten married younger, maybe 16 instead, maybe she would have expected someone closer to her age. But in this instance, she was very relieved to see that he was young, and not some old guy.
precisely.
Um, yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting situation that her family was in. It seems very uh, self harmful that
Hmm.
the leaders of this tribe would really prevent the family from expanding in any way. They're just too prideful to
Yeah,
not accept anything but great dowries and bride prices and things like that.
right.
So odd, but not odd, but so sad.
It is, and then it's a bit odd, like, or it's unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But anything more on Amir?
No, that's all I have.
Then let's move on to Azel. So yeah, he's teaching Karluk archery. Even though some of the other people of the clan didn't seem too keen on Karluk staying with them, or at least at first, because there were some people like whispering when, and they didn't
Hmm.
seem to approve of it necessarily. But Azel took him in anyway. And about what we were just talking about for Amir, we learned through Joruk about all of this that, well, I don't know if it's exactly all of the men, or at least pretty much most of the men anyway, of the Helga clan are not married.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Or
and
crazy in that it was unexpected. I didn't expect that. We
uh-huh,
had been theorizing, oh, when are we gonna see Azel's family? His wife and eventually his
exactly.
kids.
Yeah.
Oh, we were probably making Azel feel bad this whole time. I'm sorry, Azel. You
Yeah,
know,
sorry,
um,
Azel.
that was rude of me to assume that you had a whole situation going on there. I did not know. I
No.
am sorry.
Yeah, right. No, we had just naturally assumed, and it was, but getting this explanation, it makes sense given the circumstances. We learned that
Yeah.
well, it takes a very high bride price for nomads to be able to take in a bride,
Uh huh.
because it's not a very, well, attractive lifestyle. So it makes sense that the price would be high, and maybe higher than most of the Halgal clan people can afford. And in the case of, like, while Amir's and Azel's dad was in charge, he might not have even approved, even if they had the money.
Yeah.
So like that was an issue as well. But also like not even Azel has a bride, which was interesting, and like that was just because their dad was just too picky or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, no one
yeah,
was good enough for his son.
yeah. I wonder if they were to get married, if they would have to abandon the nomad lifestyle. I mean, a lot of
Mm.
times the wife. Well, I guess in Karluk's family, what's his name came to
Oh yeah,
live with the sister.
Yusuf. Yeah.
I worded that strangely, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like Karluk's sister didn't leave the family; the husband came to her.
Precisely. So, oh yeah, right. So that can happen, even though it's probably not the norm.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I mean it feels like they're just dooming themselves to destruction. I think someone mentioned something like that in the volume.
Yeah, right. They are in a
Um,
really rough spot now, the Halgal clan as a whole. Like
yeah,
the bride price is high as it is, but with the clan's future growing more and more uncertain, like I wouldn't be surprised if the bride price would go up even more.
yeah,
So it's yeah, it's kind of a really bad spiral, it seems like.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It almost is. You almost have to abandon that lifestyle and find. I don't know how it works in this community. Can you just go into a town and say, "Hey, I want to live here now"?
I don't
can
know.
can you do that? I don't know. I don't know how that works, but it, it may end up needing to be that way. Whether it just be individuals who do that or the whole clan entirely. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Like settling down and abandoning the nomad lifestyle, I guess would be some kind of solution. Another thing, although it would be an incredible well, it would require incredible luck, uh, but it would be that they would like somehow how find, I don't know, like a group of women that are in need of men or something. I don't know. That sounds really terrible, um, and like that kind of saves the clan. But I don't know. That sounds really stupid. That sounds so stupid. I don't.
oh, we're just these three helpless women who are hot and attractive that need men to watch over us. Whatever will we do?
I don't know. No.
I mean, it sounds like a musical waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Three brides for three nomads. Anyway,
Oh, that's terrible.
no, it would be interesting if we were to get that story of. I think particularly Azel potentially finding a bride.
Yeah.
Um, but Azel seems to be such a serious person that he would be the last person to leave the clan. I mean, as the
Oh yeah.
clan chief, you kind of have that responsibility, and I don't think he's going to shirk that duty.
Yeah.
It probably would be the cousins. I butcher their names all the time. So
Joruk and Baimat.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Baima maybe not. He seems, but Jorg, I could see him, potentially uh leaving if the opportunity was there, or maybe Azel kind of helps him out in that way. I mean, he is the head chief,
Mm.
so but I don't know if that duty really falls onto Jorg's father or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that it would be very interesting if we were to get something like that for any of them. But I think with Azel, the the bride would have to come into the Hogall clan whether they stay as nomads or not.
Yeah. Right. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Like knowing the
yeah,
character and whatnot.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thanks, Dad. Um, meaning Azel's dad. I just
Yeah.
gotta ruin this kid's life.
Yeah, he messed up big time.
At least the grandpa did Amir a solid.
Absolutely.
It's like, dude, come on. Let her move on.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say about Zell, I kind of missed my chance earlier, was just that I appreciate his patience with Karluk. You mentioned how he took Karluk in, but this whole teaching, and really the cousins are like this as well. They're teaching Karluk, but Azel is kind of the main teacher there, and
Mm.
he really treats him well and doesn't lose his patience with the town kid, and he even stops calling him brother-in-law. Not that I don't think it was bad or done disrespectfully, but
Right.
Karluk, I say, hey, just call me Karluk, and he's like, okay, sure, yeah, you
Yeah.
can do that. And I think that was respectful in a way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love the little beginning of their bond that we got to see in this volume, and I'm excited to see more of it.
Yeah.
Very well. Then next, let's talk a bit about Henry Smith, perhaps.
Henry.
Yes. So, well, I'll kick it off by I guess noting the little thing that he has stopped taking notes in public since it can be seen as suspicious,
Ah,
which is
yeah,
it's such a downer for him. Like obviously, like he wants to be able to take notes of everything like in the moment, but he can't.
yeah,
It's such a shame. Uh
yeah.
oh well. Oh well. It's the price you gotta pay.
Just the times.
Hmm.
All white people look the same, you know.
Yup.
uh, so is it basically confirmed that the item that Henry was going to Ankara to get, or Ankara to get, was the camera? Like that was the one from the letters and everything?
I think that's the implication, yeah.
Okay. Which is cool. Cool. I mean, it's a cool item to get for this time period.
Yes.
Um, so I'm excited for that and to see how he uses it going forward.
Same for sure. Yeah, right. He and Ali reached Ankara in this volume. That felt really good.
It did. It was nice.
And we got to meet Mr. Hawkins, who was also just a name before. And he well they seem to have a good dynamic, I think. I like
Yeah.
their relationship.
I almost thought it was a teacher and pupil type relationship, and there's a bit of that, but it seems more of like a, oh gosh, Japanese senpai kohai
Yeah.
relationship. Uh, Upperclassman and lowerclassman relationship, and friendship, rather than
Definitely.
that.
Or and maybe also comparable, maybe like a brothership. Um
Yeah,
or brotherhood,
yeah,
wherever. Um
definitely. He's less of he's. I mean, he has the mentorship there, but he's less of a mentor than I thought he was going to be. Like a professor, like I thought it was gonna be kind of like that type of thing. I mean, I also
mhm.
thought other things too, but we'll talk about those later.
It was fun to get like in the afterword we got to see like a little doodle kind of the two of them when they were a bit younger.
Yeah,
That
I
was
like
very
that.
sweet.
Yeah, and it kind of helps understand the dynamic even more because she says it's about an 8-10 year gap between the two. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, Mr. Hawkins urged Smith to return home to England because of the Russian conquest in the area, but Henry is stubborn,
he is.
and yeah, if he doesn't explore the area now, lots of things could get lost to history, and when the war comes, you know. So yeah, he's staying. Plus, Henry has no intention of dying, as he said.
No,
So he's all
nobody
good.
does. That'll keep him safe. Do you think that? Well, I totally believe that Henry is dedicated to studying the cultures there and really wants to take the pictures and things like that. I believe his argument, but do you think part of that was an excuse so that he could go back to potentially see Talas again?
Mm, I like that.
I say that out loud, but he left Talas in a situation where she was probably going to get married off to somebody, and did. But he didn't know for sure that was the case. So maybe there would have been some hope in him to go back and find her. Maybe, I don't know. Just a thought I had.
Hmm. I like it.
Not that it matters anymore.
Right, yeah. No, but like in the moment like from Henry's perspective, I can see that being like at least a part of the reason. I think.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely multiple. There is the fact that he does want to, return to the places he's been, document them, take photographs.
Yeah.
I think a part of him also wants to see the Ahon family again.
Yeah.
But also Talas, yeah. Talas makes sense as well.
Yeah. It would be lame if he gets to Ankara gets this camera. And it's like, well, you can't go out and actually take the pictures you want. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be kind of lame. Late
So
in the
lame.
story or his story.
Right, he's just out of the story from there on. So lame. Uh,
I'm gonna take you to even take pictures of Big Ben. God, well, I guess maybe you go back to India. I don't know. I don't know where he lives.
right, yeah. But yes, I really, really liked his reaction to seeing Talas again. I think that was so good and so real, kind of.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's just like flabbergasted.
yeah, totally. Like he wasn't talking much, which I totally like. I think that's totally understandable. Like being so well shocked and but also I think really happy at the same time, but and confused and like and maybe concerned to an extent. Like there's a lot of emotions within him in that whole
Yeah,
sequence, and I think it really shows really well just based on how he's reacting and everything. And he even cried at one point where I didn't see it actually, but Ali pointed it out.
yeah,
And I think, well, the reason for him crying, I think, could be, well, for a bunch of different reasons. As I mentioned, I think he has a lot of emotions, so it could be a lot of things. But something that I think could be at least a rather big part of why he cried there is that was the moment when he, I think, for the first time, really understood just how much Talas loves him. Because not only did she come all this way for him, but she also just expressed that she's fine just being his servant so long as she can be close to him. Like she really really likes this guy, and
yeah.
I don't think he fully understood that until that moment, and I think that's why he kind of overwhelmed him with emotions and some tears.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a wave of emotions. I think you gave a great explanation for it. You know, you could also chalk it up to happiness. You know, happy tears.
For sure.
Um, but I think it's fair to say that he understands the implications that she really loves him and was willing to give up the family that she had just to be with him,
Right.
even just the chance of being with him.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a lot to process, and I think at the end, obviously, he's happy about it, but you can't blame the guy for being just kind of taken aback and
Hmm.
unable to process everything easily.
For sure. And it's a culture shock, and I mean, well, a lot of it is, well, pretty much his whole life currently is a culture shock in a way,
Yeah,
but like this kind of stuff, I think, because it becomes more personal when there's this, well, idea slash possibility that he's going to get married in a manner that is not considered normal where he's from. Like where he's from, you don't marry someone as, I guess, without knowing them as well. Like it's a different in terms of norms in different societies.
yeah. I mean, they haven't really been courting each other really, but you know, yeah, they kind of had a brief courtship when he was staying with them. Um, More so than just you know meeting the person you're going to marry for the first time.
Like on the wedding,
uh,
right? Precisely.
on the wedding
It's
day.
it's not as
So
extreme as it is, or as we've seen it be in some instances in this series, but it's also not as it would be, I guess, back in England. Like it would probably take a lot longer there.
I guess to maybe add to it all, Talas coming to him and saying, "I just want to be with you, even as your servant." And he's like, "No, no way." Um, it does kind of imply that he would take her hand in marriage,
Hmm.
and that that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really faulting Talas too much because I think Henry is fully committed to it before. Although things can change, of course. But I will say Henry is put into a place now where he almost feels obligated to marry her, like forced to marry her. Otherwise, her life is kind of in the dumps. I mean, I think her life is better in this now than it would be if she had just stayed home. But still, it's a lot of pressure, responsibility to put on someone right there, and
Yeah.
I could see that being a bit much.
Yeah. It is. Do you want to move on? Talk about Talas a bit.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anything else on Henry.
So yeah, so something that I can go on with what we were talking about. Something that I started thinking of when we got to see the man that she had married over the time when we were away from her.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of those examples of two people that didn't meet until their wedding, and
Yeah.
and whatnot, and like she had fallen in love with Henry by then, so she really just wanted to go be with him.
I just want to be with my Henry.
But this guy was understanding and seems like a really good dude.
Shout out to this guy.
Honestly.
Like, huge what round of applause. I mean,
Uh-huh.
dude's like, I mean, she doesn't love me, and I don't want to deal with that. So, but
And
he
like
took her to Ankara,
it's yeah,
like from all the way
it's crazy.
where they live.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really incredible. But like I don't know, like cuz I think I had a thought or a feeling or whatever back in volume 3 or whatever when Talas was introduced and when we got her story with Henry last time. I got the
Mm-hmm.
feeling that she only fell in love with him because he wasn't like a bad guy. Or well, I guess we didn't know much about her previous husbands. She had plenty, but I don't know. I maybe it was unfounded of me to get that vibe, but like she fancied him because he was a nice guy, not necessarily because they didn't have a lot of time to get to know each other really, like on the surface level, sure, but like not deeply. But like that, her love for him grew because she just felt like he was a good guy. But this husband that she ended up getting, he was probably equally as much of a good guy, but she didn't fall for him. And I guess that kind of, well, it makes me buy her love for Henry a bit more because obviously love is hard to understand and you can't control who you fall for and whatnot. It is kind of illogical in some ways, but yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
No, you are. Yeah, I mean, I think she did fall in love with his niceness, but maybe there was other things that she was attracted to.
Hmm.
I think it's just hard to move on from somebody when they don't pass away.
Yeah,
And especially in this instance where it's not really they didn't like break up. They were kind of forcibly removed from each other, and
right.
so obviously those feelings are going to still be pretty strong, I would think. So even though this guy's a nice guy and still alive, it seems like any of her husbands pass away. Watch out, Henry. But um, even despite that he's a nice guy, I just don't think that she was in the mindset yet to fall in someone. I think maybe she probably could have. It depends on the person, but it was still the love was still fresh in her mind, in her heart, whatever cheesy expression you want to use. That she couldn't let go at the time, and I respect the guy, and he felt they had a plan so they can get back the bride price, whatever it was called. Anyway, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is just it worked out for Talas in the end to marry a guy like that.
Yes.
Really, she really lucked out.
Oh, she absolutely did. Yeah, it could have gone so much worse. And I think with all this said, and even though Talas might not know Henry on a deep level, it still very much is real love that she's feeling for him. Like I don't think you can really say otherwise, judging by what she's done for well because of these feelings for him. So I think that's really beautiful, despite it not being all that deep.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna go into true love discussions in a sec. Go back into our Kaguya-sama love is war days.
Right.
But I know the saying that distance makes the heart grow fonder
Hmm.
is very true in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I can't speak scientifically, but I do feel like that is a true principle where, you know, you're not with someone, you think about them more. And I think with Talas's case, she had this guy that she was really liking just ripped away from her, and I'm sure that made it all the or made her love all the stronger as she thought about him
Hmm.
and wanted to be with him.
Yeah, and we know Henry has been thinking of her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a time where you move on eventually. I think for the most part,
Hmm.
but it's a story, so I don't think they're gonna move on too quickly. And we honestly we were kind of hoping for this from the very beginning.
Right. Plus, I don't think enough time passed for them to kind of reach that part where they move on. Like, I think they could still easily be in the longing phase.
I mean, to be
Um,
fair, it feels like it has been like half a year maybe since they were separated.
Actually,
So
maybe I don't know, but that could be it. It's hard to keep track of time, I think, but yeah.
yeah. Regardless, we are. Talis made it, found him in Ankara, found her man,
Hmm.
and I think it's gonna be a. I don't think it's gonna be smooth sailing. Let me stop myself there. I think in terms of love, the relationship, I mean there could be some growing pains, but I think for the most part they're be good.
Mm.
I do think there's gonna be some tough moments along the journey, and yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. My last thing about Talas is just how much I love the last panel of the volume here with Talas and Henry holding hands. It's so freaking cute.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so rewarding after all this time. They're finally together at last.
It really is. I did not expect it to happen this volume. I expected it,
Yeah.
you know, looking back in our previous discussions, I definitely expected it to happen like in a couple volumes instead, but no, when she teases it, it means it's coming. It's right here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not all the time, but in this case it was. Like she put her there to make sure we didn't forget. She even mentioned in the forward, do you guys remember Talas? It's like, how could we forget?
Yeah.
Uh
We've been talking about her like every discussion almost. Yeah. Well, do we have any other characters we want to talk about?
no.
Then let's hop into predictions. So, regarding Henry and Talas and Ali, I think that little trio, well, they're going to start making their way back to the Ahon family, to that town. They are retracing their steps more or less, I think was the implication. So I'm expecting we will get to, check in on Anis and Shireen and Lila and Laylee on the way back.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking. Plus, like, I'm feeling very confident about those because they were big things on the journey to Ankara. So I think on the way back, they are for sure places that they will kind of stop by and like for a little brief time, so that we as readers can get to check in on them through Henry and Talas and Ali.
Right.
Um, so I think those are. I feel like those are pretty certain, but I also think it would be nice if some of the smaller little encounters that we had or that they had along the way to Ankara might also be revisited on the way back, such as the man who was seeking vengeance in the mountains in this volume. Maybe
Oh,
at the beginning of the return trip, maybe they'll find out what happened there potentially.
yikes.
Perhaps we'll see what became of that, and maybe other places that they passed through, like this out of the smaller things, and Smith's pocket watch. Maybe we'll also learn on the along the way back what happened to that, and maybe they'll encounter it again.
That was the one that came to my mind immediately was the pocket watch. I think
Mm.
it's got to be somewhere along their travels. I have no idea what its use is going to be now. It has nothing to do with Talis anymore, so I'm not sure how Mori's going to bring it up again, or and what the significance will be. So excited to see what she has planned for that. But I agree with you that it would make sense for them to go back to the villages where they met the brides and check in on them for the story. For some reason, I was thinking that is it too early to go back to Shireen? Um, but I guess there's been 3 volumes or so since then.
Three, yeah, there's been 3 whole volumes basically now.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I don't think it's gonna be automatically that we get back to her. So so maybe in like 2 or 3 volumes,
Precisely, yeah.
um,
The trek
we
from
get her again.
Ankara to Anis and Shireen could still take several volumes, I think, yeah,
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah. So that makes sense. That's when they come back. So yeah,
Mm.
certainly thinking that way as well.
Right, but yeah, it's going to be like the other, well, basically the opposite order, obviously, since they're going the other way. So
Right,
we will get Anis and
right.
Shireen before Layla and Layli this time around. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And honest, you know what? I kind of thought that for some reason I thought even though I figured Smith would return, I thought that we would get more time to pass before at least we saw the twins. But it makes sense that we would see it through his return journey and that it would only be like at most a year if not only a few months. So that that makes sense. And obviously they'd still be living their married lives. So anyway, yeah.
Mm, mm.
Excited to see that eventually when we get that, but that probably won't be for a long while.
Right, that
But
might, yeah, that'll be a bit longer, yeah.
yeah.
But the goal, as it seems like at least for that trio of Henry, Talas, and Ali, seems to be the town where the Ahan family lives. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to guess that Henry and Talas will marry once they reach that town,
Ooh. Very nice.
and they'll have a party in the town, you know, or a feast.
Do you think they could potentially be married civilly here in Ankara and then have a wedding later? Because the reason why I bring that up is just you have Hawkins here. I don't know if
Mm.
he's a man of the cloth, and it's not like he can go online to get a marriage certificate. But it, I don't know. They seem to be pretty open to European or I should say British customs.
For sure,
Um,
yeah.
so maybe it would be easy for him to have like a British wedding right there, and then
Mm.
maybe have the Central Asian wedding over there. I'm not. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, honestly, I
Um,
probably think they could pull off whatever kind of wedding they wanted in Ankara if they wanted to.
yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing though. She can't go anywhere near her home because she's supposed to be dead. So any sort of big feast or anything like that. I mean, it's not necessarily that the Ahon family is super close to her village, but close enough to hear rumors, things like that.
Hmm.
So maybe having a huge wedding there might not be the best.
That's a fair point. Hmm.
I don't know. Or maybe they just don't give a crap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to read into that.
A big part of me just wants, the Ahon family to celebrate Henry's wedding.
Yeah.
I think that would be such a
I mean,
fun thing.
they could celebrate it after the fact.
They could.
When have these characters not wanted to have a celebration? You
Uh,
know.
that's an excellent question.
Anyway, I'm fine with if that happens, of course. But I'm also open to the idea of them maybe even getting married here. I mean, there could be a little bit of a of an arc where Henry really accepts it and he asks for her hand in marriage and things like that, and then they go from there. I mean, I
Mm,
guess you could still get that during the journey, or have that before the journey and then have the wedding later on. But I don't know.
mm.
I feel like Ankara's gonna be kind of a romantic area for them for a little bit, and then they'll head on out.
And yeah, I hadn't really expected them to stay long at all in Ankara,
Well,
but
they did mention that they were going to stay a little bit.
I guess so. Oh yeah, you're right. That's true. They did say that they were going to do
Yeah.
that before Talas showed up. You're right. Oh yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they will stay a bit. Enjoy.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful city. I love the that like that type of architecture.
Yeah.
Um, I took some architecture classes in high school, and
Oh,
I
really?
like since around then, I've had a fascination for like Turkish architecture and whatnot. And I remember I did like
Oh.
a drawing of I think it was Constantinople or rather Istanbul type building back in high school, which is very similar to Ankara. You know, it's also present day Turkey. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful buildings.
Yeah. I had no idea. Oh, that's cool. So the last thing I'll say about Smith and predictions, I think, yeah, is that I'm finally going to say that he's for sure not a spy. That whole that whole plot line is never gonna happen. I'm convinced at this point. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to to them saying we need you as a spy or something odd like that. Um, but no,
uh,
I don't think there's secret mind games going on here. I do think he's just a man who's passionate about his studying, and obviously, if I've that's been my main thought for a long time. But
right.
you know, back in my mind, I was thinking, oh, maybe that possibility. But I'm here to say that nope, not happening.
All right.
Putting
All
that to
right.
rest.
Hey,
So
but that was a fun journey though to be a part of.
it was it. I thank you for joining me as a bystander.
It's been a very fun speculation to follow along with.
Yeah, some things just need to be put to rest. So here lies James' prediction. Anyway,
uh, no, but that's fun. That's good.
yeah.
I so I'm probably going to. Well, I'm going to stick with what I said because I said it regarding Henry and Talas marrying when they get back to the Aeon family. Um,
Uh huh.
that said, though, something that I think would be fun and that I could see happening is for Ali to find himself a bride on the return journey
Ah,
and for him to marry along the way and return a married man.
yeah.
I think that would be fun.
I mean, I have no idea if he's gonna get married along the way or just find someone that he's going to try to court and work with the family on that.
Yeah, right. At least that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had the same prediction written down here because he has a good amount of coin now, and that was kind of his
Yes.
driving motive was to get enough money to eventually do that. And I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll have to. Well, yeah, maybe he asked for an advance pay. Like, look, I'm gonna get you to Ahon. Could I get
Oh
the Ahon family?
yeah.
Could I get the paycheck in advance so I can do this thing?
Right. Yeah. A little
Or
sponsorship from Henry.
or that, yeah, that too. Anyway, but I totally agree with you. Or yeah, I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but I feel like we get enough of this character that, it's the back of his mind that it would be fun for him to find love in some way.
Yes.
I actually had another thing about their journeyings that I was teasing earlier that I haven't mentioned yet is that I do think that they might run into Russian forces. I think
Mm.
that could be an interesting conflict for them to have to overcome besides just elemental stuff that's really been the bulk of. I guess they did get robbed. That was something. But that was
Yeah.
kind of they blinked and it happened. It's like on a board game or something. Uh
Yeah.
I think that it could be interesting whether they actually run into the forces or if there's some Russians that are making it difficult to travel a certain way.
Right.
I do
Somehow.
think that's going to affect it
I
in some
like
way.
that because we haven't really seen the Russians like personally. I think that would be very exciting to see, and it would make the most sense for Henry's part of the story, like for it to happen to him first, since he is
Yeah,
on the road constantly.
it's either them or the Hogall clan. I think those are the
Yeah.
two
Mm-hmm.
likely factions to run into the Russians in some way. So we'll
Right.
see. We'll see who does it first.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Hallgal clan,
Uh-huh.
since it was pointed out that Azel doesn't have a wife, and we touched on it already, but I think that he will have one at some point comparatively soon. Uh, it's a development that I would like to see happen within the coming 3, 4 books.
Yeah, I could agree with that time frame. Because, you know, it wouldn't be terrible for the story if Azel never marries, because we do have so many other brides and whatnot. But I do think I do think I would prefer if Azel were to find love in some way.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it would really progress the Hogall story, or I guess just I'll say Azel's story, further with that kind of arc, along with the Russians, you know, looming in the on the horizon. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree that'd be good.
Mm.
Yeah, gosh, we've been predicting so long that we would see his family and or see his wife, and he he didn't even have one. Um,
Yeah.
so it's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I would like that. And you know, speaking of uh, Hoggalls and that area, I think we'll start to see in the probably even in the next volume. I guess it depends, obviously, but I think by the end of the next volume, we'll start to see winter turn into spring.
Oh yeah.
And based on that, I'm not saying that's when a lot of growth spurts happen, but I think it'd be interesting if we see that Karluk has clearly grown taller um,
Yeah.
during that time. I think that would be a fun change of pace to actually see not just the muscles that he's gotten. You know, look at this, Amir. Look at me flexing. Um, but actually see him grow a little taller.
Definitely. I want to see that too. Yeah.
That's it. That's it for me.
Great. Then let me ask you this. Who was the star of this volume for you?
I think the star for me was Karluk because
Nice.
while while the biggest surprise and moment was the very end with Talas and Henry, I think Karluk was one who had a lot of growth. He learned a lot, and with his talk with Amir, I feel like there was a huge turning point, another huge turning point in their relationship, where maybe he can finally believe that Amir loves him for who he is,
Hmm.
and can accept that. So that's my reason.
Great. And I picked Karluk as well for basically the same reasons.
I'm glad
he
we're on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. He improved so much in this volume, and we get to see him putting so much effort in to work on himself. And I love how he's growing not just physically but emotionally as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
It's fun when we don't have when we have different MVPs, but it's also nice when we have the same MVP and we're just like, yeah, yeah, exactly. We get it,
Yes.
brother. Or manly handshake. Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And dear listeners, if you have an MVP of your own for this volume, please share them in the comments.
Please do.
Or any thoughts at all about the series, spoiler free, of course. Please let us know. What do you think? And actually, let me ask, because I don't think we've done this maybe ever on this series, but how would you rate this manga so far, if you can, on a scale from 1 to 10?
Oh, oh, I'm sure we've given a rating in the past, but
It's been a while, I think.
yeah, yeah, probably. I think that I think I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's great, in my mind. I look forward to reading the volumes each time, and there's a lot of characters I like. It's not my favorite, but it's by no means my least favorite that we cover. So 8 out of 10 is great in my book.
Awesome. That's awesome. For me, it's, I think, since maybe it was around like the last 2 or so volumes with the Paria arc, that I think this series as a whole shot up to a 9 out of 10 for me.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. That arc is so good.
And
Peak.
but yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
Like, I love this series. It's such a cozy series. Like,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. yeah, please rate this manga as well if you're listening and want to share your rating and review. But I suppose that's all for this time.
Yeah.
Very well. If you enjoy our podcast, please share it with your friends. You'll find links to our social media in the description, and you can support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 11. Bye-bye!
Bye! Have you seen that? I think it's just some fan dub where I don't even remember the context, but Sonic just like runs up to somebody and just laughs and says, "One." And that's it. I don't know, like
What?
it's so random.
Wow.